Hello. I think we don't have tech issues. This might be a league first, a nation first with PSN. How are we doing, Eagles Nation, after what has been a truly chaotic day at the office? I know my Wi-Fi is unstable at the minute. Apologies for that. Not much I can do about it, but I will grind out this stream because, my God, have we got the perfect way to start. Now, I thought coming off a preseason game where we all had a little bit to say. We did the watch along. Brian and Zach obviously hopped on the next morning. I would have joined that, but unfortunately, my eye issue flared up. I couldn't see out of it for like 2 hours. So I'd have been sat there like Popeye, and that's not fun for anyone. So I gave it a miss. And then obviously, as time's gone on, we've had time to reflect. And it was almost time to turn towards joint practice tomorrow in New England against the Patriots ahead of their later preseason clash. What I didn't expect was Hassan Reddick pulling off the unthinkable. Now, for those that aren't aware, I mean, Marshall Lynch is in. I am indeed wearing a Hamilton Tiger Cats jersey. It's a Johnny Manziel special for those eagle-eyed among you. So, you know, I'm a man of culture. What can I say? But let's just start with this. So for those that haven't seen the news, that haven't been on Twitter today, that you've just come home and, you know, you've opened up your phone and seen a tweet from Ian Rappaport stating that Hassan Reddick has requested a trade from the New York Jets. Now, this comes on the back of what feels like a few months now of Reddick being unsettled, wanting a new contract, the Jets not wanting to pay him, and it being very back and forth between the two sides. Like, Hassan wanted the big payday with Philly. Philly wouldn't let him have it. They traded him to New York for what would be a conditional second-round pick, so a third with the upside of a second. Now, Reddick has requested a trade from the Jets, which means that technically the Jets have given up a third-round pick at minimum for absolutely nothing. Like, they've just given the Eagles a third-round pick. And what makes this even worse, if you're a New York Jets fan, is the fact that the Eagles have got Bryce Huff. So the Jets parted ways with Bryce Huff, safe in the knowledge that they wanted to go out and secure Hassan Reddick's services. That was the plan. They let Bryce Huff go. He was coming off a 10-sack season. He's going to command top-level money. And he ends up going to Philadelphia, who let go of Hassan Reddick. He then obviously ends up in New York, and it ends up this weird back and forth. The fact that the Jets end up with nothing, the Eagles lose a headache. Like, bear in mind that Reddick wanted the payday. I know he wanted to stay in Philly, but he clearly wanted the bag more, as we now know. They shake a potential contract headache. They don't overpay for someone that isn't going to perform or could hold out, or at the worst cause like locker room disruptions. Like, we have to forget, the Eagles are coming off a pretty torrid downfall at the end of last season. They needed to make sure there were no bumps and bruises going into the offseason at this time. So to lose Hassan Reddick, big goodbye was a win. To get a conditional second-round pick back was a win. To take Bryce Huff and pay him what would likely be, I don't know, maybe a third of the value that Reddick might get on an average yearly basis is a win. To then have that with Reddick not even playing a snap. Reddick will not even play a snap for the New York Jets, and he's gone, and he's been shafted. Now, when excuse me, long day. When I found out this news, I was sat at home. I was writing an article about Jalen Hurts winning the MVP race this year, and my girlfriend was making dinner. And I was like, I sat there staring at my phone and audibly let out, you know, a few exclamations. And she was like, what's wrong? What's happened? And I was like, oh, the Eagles have not done something, but they've gained quite a lot while also nothing happening. And she was like, can you put it in terms I will understand? So I said this. Imagine I've got a Big Mac, okay, and it's a moldy Big Mac, and I don't really want it anymore. You know, it's the same. It's just not for me. But you've got eyes on it. You want my moldy Big Mac. So I'll give it to you if you give me a box of like KFC chicken strips, like a bargain bucket of KFC chicken. All right. I'll have that for free and you have my moldy Big Mac. She's like, yeah, all right, fine. Now pretend that by the time you get the moldy Big Mac, someone runs it over. Like someone just swipes out your hand, a bird flies down and steals it and then just tosses it to the road. And I'm left with the chicken. And you also sent me the money for the Big Mac as well. You told me to buy it. So I now have the money for the Big Mac, the chicken, and the Big Mac's in the middle of the road. And she was like, I think I kind of get it. So there you go. If for anyone that needs a little bit more clarity on what happened, hopefully that sorts it out. Martian says, I've got a new woman. No, same woman. We went through, free agency, and we worked out a long-term contract extension. So there we go. What photo am I using to stream? For fuck's sake. Yeah, the internet's really bad. I don't know what I do know what's going on. My girlfriend is staying for 2 weeks, falling asleep, and is streaming, I believe, ASMR content at the minute. So I can't. I'm stuck in limbo, I'm afraid. And then it's a long story with the internet and this flat, and it's not great. So I'm afraid it is very much 120p resolution at the minute, boys. I can't do much about that, I'm afraid. But Greg mentions that the draft pick also depended on snap count. So I believe it goes to a second if he plays in 65% of snaps and gets 10 sacks or 8.5 sacks, something like that. So I don't know if this applies to different teams. Like, is there a possibility that Hassan Reddick goes, nah, I don't want to play for the Jets? And let's say he gets traded to, I don't know, Las Vegas. Let's say he gets traded to Denver or just, someone out of the way, right? And he starts there, gets 70% of snaps and 9 sacks. Do the Jets still have to give the Eagles a second-round pick? I don't know the ins and outs of this move. I'm not overly familiar with what Howie Roseman puts in his contracts or like in these trade clauses. Like, I'd find it pretty stunning if the Jets somehow found a way to include a clause where Hassan Reddick could play for another team and still shaft the team that just acquired him out of a second-round pick. That would take some doing. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think it has to be surely the team that's acquired you've got to play the snaps for. Otherwise, it's a pointless trade. Like, otherwise any trade would be just meaningless, I feel. So it would, my theory is it has to be New York. It is team compliant. The answer is not, is team compliant. Yeah, I figured it would be. Okay. Slightly annoying, but also funny. And Howie Roseman does have the possibility to do the wildest thing ever, which is bring Hassan Reddick back on one more prove-it deal, one more rodeo, 7-8 mil a year. Just one last chance, one last finale in Philadelphia. He wanted to be here. He couldn't get the bag. Can't get the bag in New York. Maybe he comes just down and boogies one more time. Maybe he wants one last night out with the boys before he goes off to college. Who's to say? And if he does, I think it would benefit Bryce Huff, because Huff isn't a 3-down pass rusher. He's simply, a rotational guy that has capitalized on worn-down defenses. And that's not a knock on him. He could absolutely become a 3-down guy, especially in this scheme. But for the time being, he's not a 3-down guy. Just not the case. Okay? So having Reddick back would be huge in that regard. Also, the fact that they get a 3rd-round pick just to get him back. Like, I wonder if Roseman would be willing to pay a bit more knowing you've got a 3rd-round pick already. I don't know how GMs value draft capital in comparison to, like, monetary assets. Like, I'm not sure what the grading scale is there. Like, there must be a chart somewhere. There must be a 1st-round pick's roughly worth 8 million salary. A 2nd round's worth this much. Like, there's got to be someone working some black magic, and I doubt that it's going to be Howie Roseman not doing that. So Howie might not have been willing to pay him 6 months ago, but now he's got this extra 3rd-round pick at a minimum, guaranteed for free, and he's got an opportunity to bring Reddick back anyway. Does he go, well, we've got a 3rd-round pick. We've got spare cap space. We can offload Bradbury if we have to. If we really need to clear out cap space, we can get rid of him for a couple mil. We bring him back one more time. Like, what is stopping Roseman bringing Reddick back one more year on a bad deal where Reddick wants to prove himself again because he can't get the money he wants in Philly. He can't get it in New York. So he goes back to a Super Bowl contender that will at least give him something, because Philadelphia did make an offer. They did want to keep him. So he goes back to the team that initially made the offer and says, look, fair enough. You guys got a 3rd-round pick out of me. Let me get you a Super Bowl as well. It's happily ever after, and it might go down as the greatest trade the world has ever seen. I'm all for it. I think that will be sensational. We'll get to a few of your comments. Actually, took you back like how he about to take his son. Look, free agency happens, all right? Sometimes you need to test the open waters and realize where you need to sign a long-term contract extension. 420p and the P is a potato. Martian's back with a bang. He is back with a bang. Matt says, can Hassan get traded back to Temple? He's kind of doing my head in at this point. Like, if anything's come of it, I obviously highly doubt he's going to be back with the Eagles, but I'm also very glad that they've evaded that headache. Like, Eagles fans, you're all going to remember the contract holdups that have appeared and gone over the years, and there hasn't been any in the last 3, 4, maybe even 5. I can't think of the last one that actually stood out to me, to be honest. There isn't one that comes to mind that mattered outside of Fletcher Cox, which was 2016, 2015. I want to say 2016. I think it was Carson Wentz's rookie year. Outside of that, I think Nigel Bradham had a go. Darren Sproles, that was 2016. There was like a whole offseason where they all just did it for some reason, just all decided to hold up the team. I don't think there's been one since then. So why would you entertain the idea of Hassan being a pain in the ass? Like, it's not what this Eagles team's about. They want people who want to play for Philly exclusively. Like, it doesn't. You're gonna get your bag. You look at someone like Devontae Smith, got his bag. AJ Brown got his bag. Jalen Hurts got his bag. Like, this isn't a team where they're gonna just facilitate anyone who's gonna work it. Even previous year contracts, a lot of the players end up staying anyway. It just happens. Like, it's a culture-rich environment. So I'm not mad that Hassan's gone, but it is absolutely hilarious. Like, if that happened on Madden? So I really strayed it ahead. That was winding me up. Like, if that happened on Madden, you would 100% reset the game. You would not carry on with that franchise mode. You would be out there in a heartbeat, and you'd be like, "Oh, the game's broken." You'd go onto Reddit and you complain on the forums saying that EA are just money hoarding cowards and they don't care about franchise mode, and I'm sick of Ultimate Team and Madden's fallen off. EA is washed. 2K better, and you would say that if that happened. So I dread to think what Joe Douglas is actually supposed to do now. Like, it's crazy. Timor is in, said, "Hello, just coming in to say your drafting skills mean you can get a job at the Raiders front office." Right. I am in a fantasy league. I don't know how many people are in it. I think it's like 14, 15, maybe 16. I will read out my fantasy draft because I want advice, because I know I've made a boo-boo here, all right? I know this has not gone well, my fantasy draft so far, but it was a keeper league, so I had a couple keepers, but I want to show that I'm not totally crazy and that everything's okay and I'm going to win. It's 15 teams, this fantasy league, by the way. So before we segue on to Eagles topics and the 53-man roster, I'm trying to find this spreadsheet. The most annoying draft process on the planet. I understand why it's the way it is, Timor. I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at capitalism, okay? I cannot find the spreadsheet, as per with every draft pick I ever make. So I don't know who's off. I've got it. Right. So this is the team I've assembled. We are on round 7 so far, all right? The 2 keepers I kept from last year. I need grades here. Like, live grade my fantasy draft, because this is important to me for some reason. I think I came last year, and that I cover NFL for a living. This cannot be a scenario where I should watch more football than most people in this league, given that most of them are British as well. So I'm up later than them, so I can watch all the stupid Thursday night bollocks games between the Bears and the Browns. Okay, there is no way I should be the laughing stock in this league that I am, right? So the 2 players I kept, Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson. Now, I'm a little bit uncertain on Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he might have a bit of a cap season now in this year. I don't know. We'll see. Like, I think he's still got some upside, and it wasn't exactly like my team was littered with talent. I went for a very Moneyball-esque team last year. So Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, they were the keepers. All right, next one up, Nico Collins. What's wrong with Nico Collins? Absolutely nothing. Is he going to be hurt by Stephon Diggs' arrival? I don't know. Like, it's only Tank Dell and then John Mechie? And Mechie might be being traded anyway. I'm reading today. Apparently the Eagles are interested, which I've heard absolutely nothing about, so I'm putting no stock in that. But I think Nico Collins will be fine. I think he's going to have another 1,000-yard season pretty comfortably. I'm all for it. Okay, so Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins. Then I went quarterback because everyone else decided to keep some, and that pissed me off. So I went Jordan Love. All right, wild card pick. Hear me out. I think he's going to have a baller year. I think the second half of last season, he was tremendous. So Jordan Love's on the team. Najee Harris. Jalen Warren went before him. I think Najee Harris is going to be the better pick there. Like, as much as Warren's going to split that backfield and production's going to be down for Harris, he's not my starter. I've got 2 kind of, rotational backs there. I'm going to try and find a little budget baller down in the depths. Don't you worry. And then after that, Christian Watson. baller. Jameson Williams should have a breakout. So I would say so far that's a pretty solid team. So if I can get some grades in the chat, I'll be very appreciative. I think that's at least a B minus. You had me until Najee. Yeah, it wasn't my proudest pick. I didn't want him, if I'm honest. I didn't want him. I think I initially wanted, who else was there? I think I wanted Singletary, but that didn't happen. He was gone. I initially wanted Brian Robinson Jr. and he was gone. Who else has been taken that I was looking at? Richard White, wanted him. Started strong, but it's a B. Let's see. I will take a B minus. I will take a B minus, Bird Brain. I will take that all day. A C minus from Timor, the commissioner. That's bias. That's a penalty. That's immediately a 10-point deduction on your first game week. I don't make the rules. Got to put that list up because, ouch. It's a great team. It's a great team. Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Jordan Love, Najee Harris, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams. What's wrong with that? That's winning the lot. That is absolutely winning the lot. But talking of fantasy football, before we segue to a couple more Eagles topics, we will be streaming the PSN fantasy draft. I don't know when that's going to be yet, but we should have, I want to say like at least 12 PSN members in. So we might live stream the draft here on YouTube. So if you guys would want to see some chaos with all your PSN favorites like myself, Zach, Brian, Eric, Morgan, I'm assuming should be there, Tim, a few of the other guys, it'll be a laugh. It'll be a really good night. I think Justin's in the league as well. It'll be really cool. So if you want to, we're just streaming it for fun. So if you want to come hang out with us while we do it, that'd be sick. If not, don't worry. We'll just talk about it constantly forever. Everyone after Najee is very boom or bust. Exactly. And I'm a gambling man. And I love it. I love a boom or bust. My quarterback last year, Bird Brain, Desmond Ridder. Okay? Desmond Ridder. I don't make the rules. I do not let. I have my selection process. I choose them very carefully. I thought Desmond Ridder would be the boy. He absolutely was not. Ruined my entire year. Okay? But I gave him a chance. But I feel like if I have the solid like 3 or 4 guys in, then the boom or bust. That's where you win the championship. And if they bust early, the waiver wire exists and I can make a couple trades. Like, you need a few injuries. Boom or bust with a few injuries, I'm in. Don't you worry. Gibbs is a split carry back. Yeah, that was my worry, but my other running backs were absolutely terrible. I don't know if I can even load up the league, to be honest, to see who I had in it before. But there was like no one. It was a really, really bad team. Can I see? No, don't think I can. I can't remember what app we use, to be honest. It might be ESPN. Jason had a below average Kilbert. Yeah, I know. But again, I didn't keep Justin Jefferson because I think he's the best receiver in football. I kept him because he was the best of a very, very bad bunch. So we're going to talk to Justin because I haven't mentioned him yet. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, my friend. I promise it wasn't intentional. Both Eagles in fantasy question. I'm in a KR and PR yards premium league. I like that. For the Eagles, I would assume it's Britton Covey. Mike Clay projects kick return will be Isaiah Rodgers and PR will be Covey, but Shipley was KR in the preseason game. When's your draft? Is it soon? Because this could get very risky. I would say that the lock of any of them is going to be Britton Covey because he was one of the league's best returners last year. I can't see them moving away from him that much. The only reason they would is because he's going to have a bigger role in offense now. Like, he seems to be in line for that WR3 spot. In terms of punt return, like, I like Isaiah Rodgers to do it because he did it in Indianapolis and he did it very well. But he's your CB2. He is your starting CB2 now. So I don't think they're going to risk their starting boundary corner to return kicks and punts just because you just don't do it, you know? Like, so for me, it would be Shipley or Covey. Like, as much as Rodgers can do it, and again, he excelled with it in Indianapolis, I just can't imagine him. I might be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm wrong quite a lot, okay? But I can't see that happening. So take that for what it's worth. And if you lose your fantasy league and have to do a forfeit, it's on me, and I'll do it with you as long as it doesn't involve sending like $2,000 to some random guy in Taiwan. I will do it with you. If it's like downing a drink, you know, wearing funny clothes, singing a song, I'll do it with you. All right, you're not alone, sunshine. Rodgers did get snaps at returner early in the game. I don't know. I feel like they've got options there. They also had Ineos Smith in there. So, like, they need someone to step up. I think Shipley would make a lot of sense because he's not going to be your bell cow running back. You know he's good at running back now. You know he can be a solid, reliable depth option. I don't know if he's going to get the exposure needed to develop. I think especially with these kickoff rules, it's a really good opportunity for him to prove his value. Like, he looked very explosive between the tackles. So, yeah, I would hedge more money on Shipley than Rodgers, just because if you lose your start in CB2 due to a dodgy kickoff return, even though the rules are better and they shouldn't be injured as much, I personally wouldn't risk it. I had Mattison, Gibbs, and Spears as your running back options. There we go. Yeah, Mattison, not asked, really. As much as it might make sense, I'm just not asked. Gibbs is who we went with. And Spears, I thought Spears was quite boom or bust based off last year and who he's now alongside in the backfield. Like, I thought I might as well just take the best running back which I had, which was Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just a free fun league. Thanks for the reply. We drafted yesterday, inspired by the new kickoff rules. I love that. No worries, man. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you checking in and watching the show. Supposedly, Rodgers is likely to win CB2. Yeah, so from what we've seen in preseason, Rodgers will be on the boundary, and it will be Quinion Mitchell in the slot for now. I don't know if that will change or they'll go with like Avonte Maddox in the nickel. But for the time being, given that there's just a massive lack of depth at safety, it looks like it will be Quinion in the nickel. Rodgers has just held it ever since OTAs. Like, Isaiah Rodgers has been the guy outside. He's been very hard to top. He's hung in with AJ, he hangs in with Smitty, doesn't seem phased by anything, so I just can't see them moving away from him. So, yeah, I would lock in Rodgers to win CB2, which, again, is just why I can't see them risking him too much on punts. They might sprinkle him in occasionally, but I just can't see there being much value for the Eagles in doing that. But speaking of value for the Eagles and the current shape of the team, the title of this video, before Hassan Reddick ruined everything and I missed out on the greatest clickbait title of all time, is about the roster prediction. Now, we're one preseason game in. We learned a lot about the team, some good, some bad, some in the middle. I thought it'd be good to write a 53-man roster prediction. I don't know if this is actually going to work. So, you know, my internet's bugging. I'm not sure. Can you see this? You can see this. Lovely. Right then. So I wrote this article earlier today, phillysportsnetwork.com. There's meant to be an advert there, but my browser is bugging. You even get Phillies highlights in the video on the website. What more could you want other than, you know, them to win? Is what it is. I thought I'll go through this with you, go through each position and just get your thoughts on it, because I think it's a really interesting time of year to look at the roster in particular. Like, there's a lot of guys who are on that bubble that may or may not make it. And it's interesting, like, how I view players and how other people and how fans view players and how other analysts view players, like, because it varies so much. So we start at quarterback. I still think Kenny Pickett gets the job. I think Tanner McKee's not going anywhere. Look, it even highlights bright green for the Eagles. You don't get this on NBC. You don't get this on ESPN. Look, bright green when you highlight. That's why you should go to phillysportsnetwork.com, okay? I don't make the rules, boys. I don't make the rules. Kenny Pickett, for me, look, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, all right? He's not going to be the guy that comes out, as I said in the live stream on the watch-along, 2 minutes to go, you're down by 3, Kenny Pickett comes in for an injured Jalen Hurts. I can't think of many things worse. However, he has starting experience, and I think in that preseason game specifically, he did move an offense. Like, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't consistent, but converted a couple one fourth down. They threw, a lot of the players were short of the sticks. I'm pretty sure the yards per pass was like 8 point something, or like lower than that. It was really, really low. So if I'm being crystal ball Liam and conspiracy Liam, and I've got my tinfoil hat on, I think that's by design. A, you never show much offensive scheme in preseason anyway. And B, you just want to know if Pickett can manage a game. If he can lead a drive down the field and score a touchdown without turning the ball over, without making a costly mistake and missing easy throws. Now, he did the last bit quite frequently, and that's worrying. So we need to make sure that's ironed out in game 2. But if you compare him to Will Greer, who we've not seen yet, I just can't see there being much of a world where Will Greer beats Pickett out, just because Pickett has the starting experience that Greer doesn't on a more consistent basis. Like, he's had a couple years in Pittsburgh, mixed success, but he's won NFL games. He's thrown game-winning touchdowns. He's been in clutch spots. He's been around the league. He's been around locker rooms to know what to expect. It's not that Will Greer hasn't. But if you look at what the trajectory of the Panthers was when he arrived and what happened when he arrived, and at that moment ever since, really. Like, I'm a big Will Greer guy. He was fun at West Virginia. He won me a lot of money on betting on college football. I'm not betting that he's going to beat out Kenny Pickett. So Pickett is not going to win you games, but he's also not going to lose them. And I think that is the biggest thing for this Eagles team right now. He's not going to win you games. He will not go into a game in relief of Jalen Hurts and single-handedly turn the tide or retain it, but he won't throw it away. And that, for me, is the biggest thing. So Pickett stays for that reason. Justin's biggest question is who ends up being wide receiver 3 if we make a deep playoff run or have injuries. I don't like depending on Campbell and Wilson. Maybe we pick up a vet after camp cuts. It's certainly possible. I'll get to wide receivers in just a minute, but it's certainly a valid concern. And it's one where I think because there is no outright winner at the minute, right? Like, Paris Campbell, I think, is a solid we'll get to it when we get to wide receivers. I don't want to spoil the discussion, but it's a very, very interesting picture. And you're right that lack of stability and just, especially when you look at the stars you've got outside, when you've got AJ and when you've got Smitty and you look over the middle and there just ain't much there. As much as Dallas Goedert exists, like, you need something in the slot and it's just not there at the minute. So it's 100% a concern. We'll touch base when we come down. So we're going to move to running backs. I don't really know why, because there is no benefit.
Really
video of Rob Thompson. Sorry, Rob, you're a lovely man, but not today. Yeah, Barkley, Gainwell, Shipley. I think in the depth chart, Shipley's going to be RB2, especially after what we saw in the preseason win over Baltimore. Yeah, it's a strange one. I think Kenny Gainwell's trajectory's fallen off. He looked a bit better, I think, against Baltimore. Like, he hit the hay with a bit more power, but Shipley just has that oomph to him. I likened him to Jordan Howard during that watch-along stream, where I just felt like he brought a real toughness, lowered his pads into contact, lowered his helmet, kept his legs going, would drive through a tackle, get down nice and low to keep his center of gravity to make a break. He's versatile enough to catch out of the backfield. He's good in pass protection. Like, he's got the RB2 spot. I can't really see many situations where Kenny Gainwell beats him out, barring something, an exceptional circumstance. Offensive line, obviously a bit of a bigger group in here. They normally keep 10. I've got 9. I did have 8 in my first 53-man prediction, but obviously I think worries at right guard have maybe forced me to bring another name. So you've got your starting 5, Mailata, Dickerson, Jenkins, Johnson. That's 4. The 5th will either be Tyler Steen or Mekhi Becton. Okay, we know that. My money's on Mekhi Becton at this point, just because Tyler Steen, everyone certainly looked solid in that preseason game. I don't think he was. I think from what I remember, he drew a penalty. He didn't look great against the run, in run blocking. Pass protection was a little, it was the other way around, sorry. Run blocking was good. Pass protection was a bit sloppy. So I know he's just come back from injury. I know they're going to be slow with him, but keep that energy. Keep that energy. Just let him be him. Just grow in peace. When you look at Jordan Mailata's development from year 1 to year 2, it was a seismic leap and it took 12 months. And that preseason to preseason jump was absolutely astronomical. And by the 3rd year, he was your franchise left tackle. I'm not saying Steen's on the same trajectory, but coming from injury a little bit, didn't play great in that first game. You've got a solid guy in Mekhi Becton. You know what you have in Mekhi Becton. Former first-round pick, played solid at the Jets, encountered a few injury bugs along the way, and is now on a reclamation arc at the minute. So I genuinely think that it makes sense just to keep Becton out there. So I've just got to address Timur's comment. Just realised the funniest outcome is you traded Mekhi Becton back to the Jets for Reddick. Oh my God. I don't think much more in this world would bring me so much chaotic joy. Like, that is next level tomfoolery from you. I'd be all for it, don't get me wrong, just for the chaos. The move would make no sense on Philadelphia's part, but I would be all for it just because it's funny. But back to the offensive line. Beyond those two, Trevor Keegan, obviously a rookie. Dylan McMahon, obviously a rookie. And Fred Johnson, who Zach said is everyone's favourite depth piece. I thought he looked pretty solid. I think he played the majority of the game at right tackle. Little whiff early on, little whiff late on, but didn't really draw my attention otherwise, which I think is about all you can ask for from someone of his caliber. He's not exactly a world beater just yet. So I think they keep him around. I really think they keep him around. But Justin says, I think who plays next to Lane will be partially up to Lane, who he trusts next to him. Yeah, and I think with that in mind, I would be inclined to pick Becton. Again, just a veteran, someone that's been there. There's no reason that Lane can't raise him up. Like, you've got to remember, if you play alongside Lane Johnson one side, Cam Jurgens the other, you can probably get away with a few more mistakes than most. You just are going to be able to. Like, they're going to be masked a little bit. You're going to have someone next to you that can inhumanly move like some sort of wild cyborg and pull off double blocks out of nowhere. And someone that can call you things and tell you things and give you tips, whether it's your stance, whether it's your jump back, whether it's your, like, I forgot the initiating block. I forgot what the term is, like the punch. All of that, like from fundamentals to technique, he can teach. Whether or not he needs that in a season like this, where the goal should be Super Bowl. This isn't a let's build slowly and get these players up. This is a we are good enough to win a Super Bowl. So with that in mind, again, I think Becton probably just is to play for that reason. But yeah, that's it. So we've got Milazzo, Dickerson, Jurgens, Johnson, Becton. That'll be Steen, Trevor Keegan, Dylan McMahon, Fred Johnson. The only thing that worries me there is it's a lot of youth. Steen, technically his first full year. Trevor Keegan, rookie. Dylan McMahon, rookie. Fred Johnson, I think he's 83. I'm not sure. He's a very old man. Like it's a very young group. So there might be something to be said for bringing in a veteran. There are a couple knocking about. Halapu Levanti Vaitai doesn't have a team. I know he's missed a lot of time due to injury over the last couple of years. Was a huge signing of Detroit, obviously a few years ago, but has been unable to live up to the bill because he doesn't have that durability factor. You can't make the club in the tub, and ultimately he's now on the street shaking his feet. So the Eagles might be wise to reunite with someone that they're obviously very familiar with as it is. You can have Colton. I'm all right, thank you. You can keep him. That's fine. Don't you worry. But yeah, I wouldn't mind a Big V reunion. I mean, there's a couple others. Who was the other guy I was trying to think of that was with the Eagles? There was another one, I'm pretty sure. K1 is in. Nice to see you, sir. Nice to catch up. We'll move to tight end, and this is where I've got a bit creative. See, what I've done here is put Johnny Wilson at tight end. Now, I know a lot of you are going to look at this, and you're going to go, what are you smoking, Liam? With your funny little haircut and your Hamilton Tiger Cats jersey, you fraud. Listen, the Eagles typically keep 5 to 6 receivers. There might be a world where that room gets a little bit too crowded. They use Johnny Wilson all over that line of scrimmage, and he's built like a tight end. Now, I don't think he is one. I think what we saw from him on Friday night was someone that moved very, very fluidly, run routes like an ex-receiver, pretty much. He was very crisp in his cuts. He just struggles sometimes getting low enough, and he can be really sharp on those cells, and it allows DBs to get some extra leverage. The catch radius, I think, might have been a little bit, I guess, underwhelming compared to, I guess, what we expected. He had a lot of attention, didn't do a lot with it, so I want to see more from him. So with that in mind, I've got to stop saying with that in mind. That's a new phrase for the evening. But depth at tight end isn't like CJ Azoma got picked up by the entire Ravens team and carried off to Mordor. Grant Calcaterra had a couple of flashes. We know he's going to be your tight end too. There isn't really any depth outside of them though. And you're banking on Dallas Goedert to stay healthy, which is something he's proven nearing capable of doing. And that's no knock on him. All right. He is a great player. He's one of the fan favorites. He's been here for so long now. He's very much at one with the city. You can't ignore the fact that he struggles with soft tissue injuries and he always seems to pick up a knock or be midweek or just appear on the injury report because he's banged his elbow on a door. Like, there is always something wrong with Dallas Goedert injury-wise, and it sucks because he's such a brilliant player. So you need an option there that is a deep receiver, especially if wide receiver 3, as Justin was alluding to, is uncertain. The best spot for Johnny Wilson right now, where he will get maximized coaching, is tight end. It just is. Because in a wide receiver room that's already crammed, that you've got 2 absolute studs in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, 2 of the top 10 receivers in football in the same team. You've got a third receiver position where Britton Covey, Paris Campbell are likely going to be breaking out or fighting for snaps, and Aeneas Smith is existing. It's going to be hard for Johnny Wilson to get any kind of game time. He can line up. He doesn't have to play strict tight end, but he can be one of those weird flex players that plays fullback, that plays tight end, that lines up in the slot, that maybe comes in as whatever, like a blocker sometimes. I think there's just a little bit more you can do with him. And that intent was expressed in the preseason game where they were moving him around the line of scrimmage. They gave him bubble screens. They tried to get him over the middle. They tried to get him on the sideline. They were giving it everywhere, and he just couldn't quite get it done. However, he has the skill set to do it. He has the frame to do it. He has the athleticism to do it. Tight end would give him more attention. It would give him more exposure to regular season snaps, which are only going to benefit his development. He doesn't have to stay there forever. He's not signing a 4-year contract to play wide receiver for the Eagles or tight end for the Eagles. Just do what the team asks you to do. Do what the team needs done, which is fill a spot on the depth chart so you secure a spot on the roster, which is automatically a win for you. Get some extra regular season snaps. Make the most of them. Give Grant Colcaterra some competition, because his competition right now is Albert right? CJ at Zolmer. There is no one else that's going to challenge him for that TE2 spot. He needs someone, right? Johnny Wilson, for me, is, look, stick him at tight end, see what he can do. I would not be surprised if they list him at tight end. I know Johnny said he's not going there. The Eagles said he's not going there. I'm saying he's going there. And I'm the boss. And what I say goes, all right? So when it comes out at the end of August and that depth chart gets released and Johnny Wilson is a tight end, you can all look at me and go, do you know what? That bloody Brit's done it again. That stinking Brit has done it again. And that'll be it. You go on with your day and not think about it twice. But I will. I'll think about it 3 times. Eagles draft picks tend to be a big year to jump. Not looking for Ineos to be a world beater now. I just want him to not ruin my life, to be honest, Greg, at this point. It sucks that we've got to a stage where he's already doing that. So if that can be avoided, that would be tremendous. And getting John Hightower. Don't, because he wears the same number as John Hightower. And we'll get to that now. This is what's going to be fun. So your receivers I've got here, AJ, Smitty, Paris Campbell, Britton Covey, and then the wild card is Ineos Smith. Now, listen, in a world where Ineos Smith does not make this roster, which is a very likely world, it's like going outside tomorrow and it's raining. It's a 50-50 chance, okay? In that world, Johnny Wilson takes that spot of wide receiver. There is no way Wilson doesn't make the roster over Ineos Smith. But I think Smith just does offer something that Wilson can't, which is just sheer speed. And he can be an incredibly clean route runner, and he flashed it against the Ravens, and he's flashed it on tape. And when we broke down the tape, he was salivating if he just didn't do the hokey dokey spin around, flip around, Crash Bandicoot bullshit that he keeps insisting on doing. And he got away with it in college because everyone, in comparison to the NFL, they're boys to men, and you can jump over people and they're smaller, and you can run around people because they're slower. Even in a preseason game, the NFL is a different speed, and you cannot get away with the same things you were in college. That punt return was a fine example. Ball in his hands, tries to do too much, thinks he's near from the Matrix, and gets absolutely twatted for no reason. It wasn't the first time. It will not be the last time. He's got to get that coached out of him. But if he does, if they can just tell him to stop being ridiculous, just to get a grip, keep the ball in your hands and go forward. You don't have to go sideways. Your name's not Miles Sanders. You don't do this. It isn't your skill set. Just get the ball that way. Make your breaks, break some ankles, catch the ball and zoom. No need to get freaky. There's no need to spin. You're not at dance class. There's no need to jump. You're not on a trampoline. Just run and you will score far more touchdowns. And if you'd have done that through Texas A&M, it'd have probably been a 2nd, 3rd round pick. But he didn't. He's an idiot. So he ends up being drafted where he's been drafted. He has a chance when learning from guys like Devontae Smith, when learning from guys like AJ Brown. And that potential should be enough to keep him around. Because if he's around those guys for a year, I believe that anyone with that skill set can be molded. He's not like hardwired to do this stuff. And if he is, you just unplug him, Control-Alt-Delete system 32, you start him up again. So I think he's got a spot on this team. He has value. For now, Britton Covey is the completed version of Ineos Smith. He's what Ineos Smith should be if he wasn't too, So for me, Britton Covey his roster spot secure. He, for me, is the WR3 at this stage because he's just been brilliant. Like, brilliant training camp, elite returner last year, hit preseason hard, few catches to his name, look great, that's done. Like, you can't ask for more than it. Paris Campbell's been injured, he's missed time, he's lost ground to Britton Covey. Campbell's a bit slower, a bit bigger, a bit more of a possession guy. Nice to have around, will be good on a third down on a comeback route where he can just shield a ball and box out a tackle. I don't think he's going to be WR3. I think it's Britton Covey, but I would keep Aeneas Smith just for the upside. Now, just to make a point, if Jalen Reagor was supposed to be that speedy gadget guy, both undersized and unreliable, he's just too Atwell. Unfortunately, Justin, I'm not sure if you've been following the channel a while. I was a big Jalen Reagor guy, I'm afraid, as many of us were. But before the draft, I released a pre-draft rankings, and I graded every receiver as to how they would fit in Philadelphia. Not in terms of their potential or their upside, but just how they would fit in Philadelphia. The traits the Eagles crave from that position. And he graded out better than most. I think it was like everyone but one person. And the only person he didn't was, I want to say, Ruggs. Outside of that, I'm pretty sure he was like the top guy over Jefferson. But at the time, Jefferson was deemed limited to the slot. Little did we know how wrong that would be. But the decision to draft Reagor made sense because he had the exact skill set the Eagles wanted. He just couldn't get it together. You can argue he was soft. You can argue that the limelight was too big. And that's the end of it. Aeneas Smith, I don't think it's the same type of player. He did at camp with an injury, but I would liken him to John Hightower. And I love John Hightower, and I love Aeneas Smith. So I'm already, look, if I go 3 for 3, I'm going to strike out on receivers. If I get 3 that I like, 3 on the team, and that is mental. I've just realised that. I've genuinely just realised that. So in the last 5 years, I've had 3 draft crushes as receiver the Eagles have actually drafted. I loved John Hightower. I had him above most receivers in that class. I was obsessed with it. I thought he was going to be the next big thing if they got him to develop right. Didn't happen. The video of him being drafted to the Eagles and me screaming on a live stream, one of my favourite moments of all time. What followed wasn't. Jalen Reagor had him graded better than most receivers. Didn't work out. And now all my hopes, all my chips are down on this man, Aeneas Smith. And I don't know how I feel about it. Early signs are not promising. I'm sticking by my guy. All right. I will get an Aeneas Smith jersey this year. I don't care. I'll get one in. I've got to support him. Someone needs to support him. I'll just say it's a Devontae Smith one and they got the number wrong. I can get away with it. It's all right. Cubby's 5'8", 180 pounds. Basically the same height as Timor, I think. Sorry, I shouldn't have made that joke. I don't actually know how tall Timor is, but alas, I'm sure we'll find out with a nibble in a second. Ruggs and Reagor's a nightmare top 2. I need to find that spreadsheet somewhere. The video is on YouTube. Back when I actually uploaded videos and wasn't so busy and I could. It was a fun time. Cooked my MacBook Alive that video as well. I cooked my MacBook Pro to render that video for Jalen Reagor. Unbelievable. I love Aeneas Smith college tape myself. Just too much trauma there. Yeah. I hope he gets it together, man. I really hope he gets it together. Thinking how much he hated JT, JR, and how that might end up. Who's JT? How much I hated JT? JT Jr. JT Jr. Who's JT? Well, am I being silly? Who's JT Jr.? Oh, Jeremiah Trotter. Oh, sorry. Look, it's 11:45 at night. All right, it's been a long day for me. I was up at like 9 this morning as well, English time. Okay, so let's address that before we get to the defense. It wasn't that I hated Jeremiah Trotter Jr. It's that he was being pitched in the second round with guys that were far better than him. He was nowhere near a second round pick. Where the Eagles picked him is bang on for value. And as a value pick, away from the spotlight of being Jeremiah Trotter's son and being a guy in the second round who has to make an instant impact and has to come out swinging and be a starter, otherwise there's going to be questions asked from a city that loves that name, it wouldn't have made sense. In the 5th round, where you can get away with it, I think he'll be fine. Now, I still stand by my scouting report. I still stand by the fact that he just looked slow. And like the instincts just didn't feel there. And if they were there, it was like his head was at one speed and his body was at another, and he couldn't quite marry the two. Not to say it can't be coached. If you watched your tape and shook your head, yeah, because he, like I said, I don't think he looked great. He looked really. But this was someone, bear in mind, pre-draft, that was being heralded as the next big thing. Every Eagles fan in mock drafts was obsessed with the idea of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the second round, and I could not get my head around it. In the fifth, I'm willing to take a shot. Like, there's no risk in the fifth round. If you had to ask me 7 days a week, would I rather have Cooper DeJean in the second round or Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? I would take Cooper DeJean 8 days out of 7. It's not even close, you know? Now, I think Trotter's got a chance to come good because he's got the mentality there, clearly. He likes to hit hard. And I will say that preseason game was absolutely exceptional. I'll hold my hands up when I'm wrong. I said he couldn't be an instant impact player. There is a chance he can be. There is a chance. And if he comes out in 3-4 years and he becomes the new heartbeat of that defense, fair play. You know, I've got it wrong. I got it wrong. But doesn't take away from what I felt on tape. Just makes it even worse because it's just another one onto the wrong list. The only ones that get right are the busts. Basically, what there should be is an inverse Liam ticker because I can predict the downfall of people. Put it this way. If Denzel Mims, didn't do anything wrong, it'd be fine. I said the wrong name there. I lost my train of thought. Denzel Mims predicted his downfall. There are several other players along the way I did that with. The most recent was Nate Wiggins. Now, if Nate Wiggins goes out and he gets toasted all through his rookie season, I'll be there like that. So, and that'll be another one on the pile. So if we just inverse Liam's draft and every player he hates, target, and every player he loves, fade, you should end up with a Super Bowl roster after 5 years. I think that's how this works. Calm down, Paul McCartney. I thought Ineos Smith looked slow on Friday. I don't think he's healthy. That's a fair shot. I mean, I thought there was one really good route he ran. It was in the third. I think he came into the third, did he? It was in the third quarter. Just a slant over the middle, but he did this outside break and cut across the face of the defender. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. So the route is there, but that was the same thing with John Hightower. But for me, like, I would rather a wide receiver be able to run routes. You can teach the rest. There are jugs machines for the rest. Like, it's hard to teach athleticism and explosiveness. Like, you by that age, you have it or you don't. You can learn a few moves, but it's not like you're an edge rusher and you can learn to club or to swim or to spin or whatever, like, or a chop. Like, you don't have that as a receiver. You can learn a jab step. You can learn the technique of how to move your weight and how to sink your hips to burst out, but your frame might not allow it. Your muscle might not allow it. You might need to bulk up. You might need to lose weight. It's a totally different process because every receiver is so different. You know, you get 5'7" guys, you get 6'6" guys. They can't run the same routes. So I'd rather a receiver that can run a route as crisp as anything and create separation and trust the quarterback to put a ball in a position where the catch is easy enough. You don't need like a Wonderlic score of over 27,000 to catch the ball. So we'll see. I'm staying bullish on Ineos Smith for now. The people are trying to shake me out of my position. I'm not selling my stocks just yet, my boys. Don't you worry. I'm riding this man all the way down to the grave. Offense will be good enough to win a Super Bowl. Defense looks good on paper. Lots of potential if these young DBs can produce. Just worry they're a year or two away. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. And we'll get to the defense in a sec. Basically, Liam's a great hater. Liam, the negative indicator. Pretty much. Let's get to defense then. Defensive. Oh, dear. I've hit the wrong tab. Excuse me. Right. Defensive line. I've got Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff. I've put Jalix Hunt there. Stay with me. Nolan Smith at defensive end. Then your defensive tackles, Davis, Carter, Tui Pelosi, Williams, Ojimo. The one I forced on there was Ojimo because I thought he's had a really solid camp. And I said this in the preseason watch-along. If you go back to the Super Bowl year, I think what made the Eagles special was a very solid defensive tackle four-man rotation of Tim Jernigan, Fletcher Cox, Destiny Vial, Bo Allen. For me, that was the difference in the Super Bowl. When you look at who came up with the plays, when you look at the big-time pressures and when they were made and who was in the game, that defensive tackle group counted for so much in that postseason. So if you can get in a 3-4 when there might be a bit more emphasis on having 3 defensive tackles on the field at any given time, Carter, Davis, Tui Pelotu, and Williams, and you have Ojimo as that emergency depth, you're good. So that's the thesis. I think Jalix Hunt they're going to put at edge for now just because linebacker's been bulked up. I didn't anticipate they'd keep this many, but you've got Dean, White, Trotter's making the roster. Zach Bourne's going to be your starter. That's one I've got right so far. It's preseason. It's training camp. Settle down. We sat here and we grinded Zach Bourne tape, and I was like, that is a steal. Like, he's not played many snaps for the Saints, but when you look at that tape, the guy is a menace, an absolute menace in the open field, and he plays so within himself that he's just a safe option to secure tackles and not make mistakes. And that is exactly what he's been so far. So I'm buzzing for him. Now, you could realistically fade Patrick Johnson, but I feel like that key play against the Ravens might just push him back into a roster spot. Had he not made that, I'd have probably left him off and moved Jalix Hunt to linebacker. Because he made it, it's a temporary switch, and you've got the room to do it because I've dropped an offensive lineman. It makes sense, all right? So solid defensive end rotation and defensive tackle. And at linebacker, you've got Dean and White and Trotter as 3. Bourne's your 4th. 2 special teamers in Burks and Johnson. You need that special teams depth in Philadelphia. It's absolutely crucial. You go back to those Dave Phipp units and you know how important they were to success. So I'm all for it. Cornerback is where things get fun. Darius, Quinion Mitchell, Avonte Maddox, Isaiah Rodgers Jr., Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks. You could switch Ricks for anyone at that point. It could be Josh Jobe. It could be someone. It could be James Bradbury coming back down. Do whatever you want with that final one. The main thing is your starters will be Slay, Mitchell, and Isaiah Rodgers. Avonte Maddox is your backup nickel. Keely Ringo is the go-to backup outside, especially after that preseason game against Baltimore, and an extra corner just there for depth and for special teams prowess. That's a very solid roster. There's going to be pressure on Quinion Mitchell. Don't get me wrong. As Justin mentioned, it's an early year. He's also 23 years old as a rookie, which is why I wanted Terrion Arnold, because he's not, an old age pensioner by the time he's been drafted. But Quinion Mitchell looked good in preseason. They want to get him on the field. He's the most pro-ready corner of that NFL draft, by far. I just think Terrion Arnold had more upside. But Mitchell, out of the gate, will come out swinging, is comfy. He's been matching up with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith all off season long, yapping away at them, giving them some jit. And I think that counts for a lot. He's got the confidence there. He's unfazed. Isaiah Rodgers Jr. has very much earned that CB2 spot. He's been unquestioned there for a while. And you've got enough depth behind, and especially on the practice squad, to move things around. Oh, Bex, oh no. Special teams, special players, my friend. I'm not so sure about Maddox. I don't know. I think health is the important thing. Like, the Eagles were happy to let him go. They weren't going to pay him a big deal. He tested free agency. He came back. Like me and my ex. Just don't tell her she's over there. So don't. Shh. You bring Maddox back. You do what you got to do for the team. I think, in all fairness, Maddox, when healthy, is a solid slot cornerback. He's one of the better ones in the NFL. The difficulty is that first bit of when healthy. I just don't think we've seen enough of him. He's in the same boat as Dallas Goedert. I don't know what they're eating in their flat together that they have, but it's all the Nerf guns, I reckon. They're just getting injured all the time. But it's not working well. They need to cut it out. Maddox is okay. He's done the job for a while. And as K1 says, he might be playing safety. I think, again, that's sort of why they keep him around. But when you look at that safety depth chart, I don't think he's just needed for a swing position at the minute. Like, if your starting tandem is CJ, GJ, and Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean should be healthy by the start of the year. James Bradbury might scrape the roster. If, I don't know, DeJean is fully healthy and ready to go and make an impact in week 1, they might be willing to cut Bradbury and move Maddox to safety. I think that might be the better play. And then you either all put Bradbury back at corner, give yourself a veteran CB2 to lean on, and then you, I don't know, get an extra set, whatever. But I think you're right. I think he's got the versatility to play both. My main worry, K1, is that when he played safety last time out, he was absolutely dire, like lethally bad. And funnily enough, 1 year later, when he gets moved back to nickel corner, he has a career year, earns a big contract extension, and it practically ruined the career of Zach McPherson because he never had a chance to get the wheels under him. So, like, they know he's a better slot corner than he is safety. I think he's a liability as a safety. He's much safer in the nickel. He's much more confident in the nickel. So I'd keep him there. But talking of safety, as we said, Reed Blankenship's probably the only one you can circle in green as a viable option at the minute because Gardner Johnson's still nursing a possible shoulder injury. DeJean's nursing an injury. James Bradbury exists. And Sidney Brown's rehabbing a torn ACL. So when Brown returns, someone's taking a hit, and it's not going to be Cooper DeJean, and it's not going to be either of the first two. So Bradbury's out of the picture. Then you've got to work out, do you put Maddox back at safety as depth? Do you put Bradbury down at corner? Do you cut one of them? There's a lot of fluctuation that can happen in that secondary at any given moment. And they've got so many good bodies in depth that I really think anything can happen. So it's going to be fun to watch. And then finally, Jake Elliott, Rick Lovato, Braderman is what it is. They all got extensions. I don't think there's any shocking revelations there. So that's that. Shout out to Bill Stryker as well for the images. Look at that. What a man. I'll tell you what, total irrelevant thing, but we got a new image subscription service because you have to pay for images to publish on websites. And this is the best one we've ever used. I've never had actual Eagles training camp photos before because the people we use will just never have people down at the Novacare complex. One's from public practice. Like, they're just sick. Like, we had some, but we're using the same 5 images all the time. Like, it's cool. So it's an irrelevant picture. Not many people care about Mario Ojimo. I just like that I can put something like that on the website. So we're happy. But on that note, I think that Blankenship's such a liability in coverage. He's not great, but he's also not terrible. I think you can do worse. I'd still rather him back there than Maddox at this point. I think they cut Maddox because he's a vet and they can stash him on the practice squad. Yeah, that is also a viable outcome. I don't think he'd mind it. Like, he's back with the team. I think he probably knows his best days are behind him, to be honest. I really can't see them vying to, get him on the field. It's not like he's Quinion Mitchell, is it? So realistically, it's an option. Or they cut him when Brown comes back. Like, Sidney Brown's the wild card in all this as someone that, again, coming off of the injury that he is, after the rookie season of flashes that he had, with Cooper DeJean back there as well, this could be Blankenship's last year. This could easily be Blankenship's last year. Like, he's got to dig deep and find something and prove people like K1 wrong and show that he can hang in coverage and that he can be a top-end safety, whether that's a contract here or, what was that blue light flashing? Here or elsewhere. Anyway, I think that is it, ladies and gentlemen. From this stream. So I will see you on Wednesday where we go through this over again. I appreciate you all hanging out. It's been a fun night if a Son Reddit causing chaos. Eagles preseason chaos. Why are there blue lights? Okay. Can you see blue lights or am I imagining things? Am I being FBI raided? Am I imagining? What is that blue light? Oh, it's a microphone. Can you see it on the wall? Scared the life out of me. What is? Oh, someone like, is it the mic? I don't know what it is. I think it's the microphone light there. I don't know what that is. Scared the life out of me though. Gee, don't know what was happening then. Anyway, I legit thought someone had swatted me or something. Look, what is that? That's mad because there is no light from anywhere. Like, there's legit no light reflecting from anything that I can see. That is the craziest thing. Am I haunted again? Right, I have to do some investigating. I have to put on Twitter what that is. But I genuinely thought someone had... Quick heads up. No one swap me, please. I don't want that. Look at that. What is that? Someone's heard the take about Nate Wiggins. Someone's heard about the take about... who was the other one? Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And they've gone, we've had enough. We're going to swat him. Don't swat me. No need for it. All right? I struggle enough as it is. I support the Eagles. I support Charlton Athletic. Let's not do that. The ghost of John Hightower, the ghost of Doug Peterson, your PlayStation just turned on, Liam's off his nutter. All of them very fair. Christ. I think, to be fair, the worst part was when I used to stream on Twitch in like COVID times. I used to stream at my office, which I gave up in the end because obviously I moved out into my own place, and I was like, well, that's fine. I can do it from here. So I didn't need to walk into town at 6 in the morning when it's freezing and raining. But when I used to stream there, like the address for the office was on Google, and I used to stream in front of like, what, I don't know, a few hundred people probably at peak when I used to get a nice raid off like Pieface or someone. There were like a couple thousand at the very peak if it was a very lucky raid. And I was like, someone going to Google the address and like send food there or swap me or whatever. And it was always in the back of my mind, like constantly. So I feel like that's still there because I saw that blue light and I genuinely thought, oh no, someone's going to come in and like girlfriend's next door. I didn't know what to expect. So thankfully I've not been swatted. I'm going to go to bed now before I do lose my sanity. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you for, again, discussing the Hassan Reddick stuff and all of the predictions for the 53-man roster. We will be doing another watch-along for the stream this week. Eagles versus Patriots. We've got the open practice Tuesday. I believe they play Thursday, so we'll be doing our watch-along for that. But I will see you on the day before that on Wednesday to preview the game and have a little fun as well. So if you could leave a like on your way out, as you leave your popcorn at the door of the cinema, that would be absolutely tremendous. If not, I will hold it against you for eternity. But thank you for hanging out and for not swatting me. I will see you soon. Take care. Go Birds. I can't find the exit. See you later.